Hi, and welcome to Yin Yoga for Adapting to Change. I chose this topic, well, for pretty obvious reasons, because if you're alive in 2020, there's a very good chance that you're dealing with some unprecedented changes in your life. So, no matter what the changes that you're dealing with, there's no question that it can be extremely stressful. And yet, you've probably heard the saying, the only constant in life is change. Change is really natural. Day turns into night, the inhale turns into the exhale, our bodies age, seasons change. So, if change is so natural, then why is it so difficult? Why can it be so stressful? Well, there's a nuance there. The nuance is that it's not the change itself that's the stress, it's our resistance to change. Anything we do with our whole heart can only give us energy. It's our resistance that drains us. How resilient we are to stress is directly correlated to how willingly we adapt to change. Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl wrote, "When you can no longer change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." So this is all nice and good, but when you're already exhausted and feeling overwhelmed, that can feel like a really big ask to change yourself because often it implies that there's something that needs fixing, that you need to go into personal development, personal growth, self-improvement. It just feels like a lot of extra pressure. But what if I told you that there was a completely different direction that you can move in? What if the only change that you made was to give yourself permission to rest? What if the change you made was to see yourself through compassionate eyes? What if the change you made was to completely and radically accept yourself just as you are? What if you celebrated yourself for doing your best and let that be enough? So, if just by hearing these suggestions, automatically you start to relax or feel a bit better, then it's working. It's taking away a layer of resistance. So, rather than taking a yang approach of doing more, being more, going into action, we're actually doing less. We're taking a step back and giving ourselves a chance to replenish, to repair. And this will ultimately make us more resilient to stress and more adaptable to change. So, by all means, if you're feeling really energized by all the changes going on in the world and you want to go into action, you're inspired, well, go for it wholeheartedly. Don't look back and thrive. But if you're not ready yet and you don't have the energy, then being hard on yourself is just going to create more tension and more resistance, and that will make it harder to adapt to the change. It's my intention to use this yin class as a tool for you to experience more ease and more peace around the changes that you're facing in your life. For the practice, you'll need a strap or a belt or a scarf if you don't have a strap, a yoga strap. You'll also need a blanket, a yoga mat, and if you have yoga blocks, it's a plus, but don't worry if you don't. I hope that you enjoy the practice. Okay, so the first thing is to find a comfortable seat. That might mean sitting up on a block or on a blanket. And some people are more comfortable sitting with their bum in between the heels. So you could sit on a block. I have a meditation bench. If you have one of those can be helpful, or a bolster. And again, this can also be done in a chair. So next, I'm using a strap. Again, a scarf or a belt can work as well. Just have it next to you. And first we'll release general tension from the body. So one of the easiest, best ways to do this is to shake a little bit. I know it seems funny, but go ahead and shrug the shoulders, just shake the hands out. Okay, so next let's take our strap. And just before we use it, we're going to come into a few shoulder rolls. So on your inhale, take the shoulders up to the ears and then roll them back and down. That's it. Good. So use this as a breathing exercise. You're matching your movement to your breath, and this signals the nervous system to relax. It's a really good, easy way to start to relax is to match your movement to your breath. So we want the breath to stay relaxed It's more important to be true to your breath and to speed up or slow down the movement to match your breath than it is to try and match the breath to the movement. If that makes sense. So that might mean slowing down the movement if your breath is getting longer and deeper. Or if the breath is still quite quick, then make the movement a little bit quicker. In doing this, you're also beginning to be mindful, meaning that you're present to what you're doing and you're doing it on purpose. We'll do one more big circle here. Good. And now we'll take our strap. So hook it over your right shoulder and take the front and the back end of the strap. Hold them both in the right hand. You can bring your hand down by the side here. And at the same time that you're putting a bit of pressure down with the strap on the shoulder, you're also lifting up the shoulder up a little bit into the strap. Good. Now inhale nice and tall, and exhale, bring your left ear over to your left shoulder. That strap just helps to create the stretch in both directions. So down with your shoulder and over with your head. And the head is already heavy, so probably you don't need to put any extra weight, like with your hand. You can just leave it as it is and explore a little bit of variation in your movement by bringing your chin down towards the left side of your chest. And then you can bring it back up and maybe tilt the chin up towards the sky. So you can have the eyes closed or partially open here. And as you do this, you're breathing normally, naturally. And when you find a spot that feels really nice in the stretch, you can pause there. And again, with mindfulness, send your awareness to the stretch with your breath. So attention energizes. Wherever you bring your attention, you're bringing your energy there, or you're helping prana, life force energy, to circulate there. So it's not just your breath, but your intention as well that will help to open up the body through this practice. On your next inhale, come back up with the head and we'll switch sides. So take your strap over your left shoulder now, and you can pull down with your left hand. That's good. And then lengthen up through the neck first before tilting the head over and bringing the right ear to the right shoulder. There's a reason that we're starting with the neck here. Um, in Yin, we're working with connective tissue, like the fascia, myofascial system of the body. And this is like, it wraps around everywhere in your body, right? It's a very interesting tissue. And there's a front line and a back line of connective tissue and some lines that go through the side of the body. And in some way or another, they all connect in the neck. So I call it the Barry UCAM station of all the different lines of connection are in the neck. So if you want, you can, again, explore a different line by just tilting the chin slightly. So no matter how you move your head, you're going to target a different line and release tension. Should feel really nice. Good. And then slowly back to center again. We're going to switch over to the other side and take the strap in your right hand. We're coming into Gomukasana Arms. If you know what that is, you're taking your right elbow, bending it, and bringing it behind you. Tendency sometimes is for the chest to jut forward. We want to try and keep the lower ribs in here. And then the other option is to take your left hand with your thumb pointing down and hold on to your strap with that, so you feel a bit of tension between the two ends or between the two hands with the strap. If your hands reach and you can grab your hands, then you won't need the strap at all. Good. Again, close the eyes and breathe into this nice stretch in the shoulders. We want the shoulders to actually feel soft and relaxed here. Relax the face and relax the jaw. And then release, and we'll switch sides. So we're getting rid of some of the surface tensions of the body before we get into some deeper stretches. And we're also preparing our body to be able to breathe a little deeper. So by stretching the shoulders and the chest like this, we're creating physical space in the body for a deeper breath. Let's see if you can bring your elbow a little further behind the head. Now, if your face is turning red and you're clenching your jaw and you feel uncomfortable, that means you're way too far outside of your comfort zone and you need to dial back. Make sure you can smile. Maybe just take your elbow with your top hand instead. Take another breath here and then release. Now we're going to take the strap behind the back and I'll show you what it looks like. So you're holding your strap like this. You'll be bending your elbows with your hands facing in towards your lower back. So your palms are facing in towards your lower back. Roll your shoulders back. So you feel the shoulder blades on the back and bring your elbows in. And now pull on your strap. So the right towards the right side, the left towards the left side. And this will again allow for a deeper breath in the front of the chest and stretch the shoulders. So if ever you're not sure if you're too far outside of your comfort zone, smiling is, it sounds cheesy, but it's actually one of the best ways to make sure that you're in a good place in your stretch. We'll take one more breath here. And then exhale, release. And once again, roll the shoulders with your breath and see if it feels a little bit different than it did at the beginning of class. Good. And then shrug the shoulders a few times and settle into your seat. Bring your chin down towards the chest now. Again, the weight of the head might be enough for you. If you want a little bit of extra weight, you can place your hands on the back of the head, but you're not pushing down, you're just using the weight of the arms here. It might not be necessary at all. Again, we're going to practice moving with the breath. So as you inhale, you're going to slowly bring your right ear to your right shoulder. And as you exhale, bring your chin down again towards the center of the chest. Inhale the left ear to the left shoulder. And exhale it back down. So remember that you're matching the movement to your breath and not the other way around. So if you feel like having a longer, deeper breath, then make the movement slower. And depending on how your neck is feeling, you can also come into full circles here. The only thing is keep the back of the neck long. So nice long neck as you take the head back to the side and down and around. And if you're doing full circles, go in the other direction. Mindful movement, meaning that you're aware of the movement and you're doing it on purpose. The working definition of mindfulness by John Kabat-Zinn is that you're doing something on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. And the non-judgmentally, I think, is the most important. So bring the head back to center again. And now pause. Again, either with the eyes closed or slightly open. Relax the muscles around the eyes. Soften the jaw. Relax the lips. Feel the shoulders relax. And feel yourself getting more grounded into your seat now. Notice your breath as it is, without trying to change anything consciously about it. Check in with how you feel. And again, when you're checking in, there's no judgment. There's no certain way that you should be feeling or should not be feeling. Whatever you feel is valid. Good. And so now that we've opened up a little bit, let's come into our breathing exercise. It's going to be pretty simple. All we're doing is we're inhaling and exhaling in equal parts. So you'll inhale into the belly, the ribs, the chest, and the shoulders, a 3-part breath, and then exhale, shoulders soften, the ribs relax, and the belly relaxes. What we'll be doing though is we'll be focusing on the space in between the inhale and the exhale, and then the space at the bottom of the exhale before the inhale starts again. I'm not going to give you a certain time that you have to hold your breath for. What I'd like you to do is just let it spontaneously happen, this holding between breaths. So start by exhaling all the way out. Inhale a slow, deep breath in. And then as if you were arriving at the top of a roller coaster, there's that pause before you roll down and you get that exhilaration. So let the air cascade out on the exhale, almost like you're sighing, but with the mouth closed. And then feel that little pause at the end of the exhale before making your way back up and around for the inhale. And maybe it'll just be at like a half-second hold, and then the exhale, that's totally fine. For other people, you might want to hold for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It's not a race. The only thing we want is that when we come to the pause, that it feels like a place of rest. What it represents is that the inhale and the exhale is the constant change. The pauses that we feel between the inhale and exhale, and between the exhale in and inhale, represent that witnessing quality, that when we're kind of in the eye of the storm and we can sit back and observe and watch the change happening. So the other thing that that represents is Sat Chit Ananda. So Sat is truth, Chit is consciousness, and Ananda is bliss. And so certain yogic traditions will explain that all the change is happening within the context of this unchanging bliss consciousness. So we're kind of sipping or remembering that connection that we always have, all of us always have, to that unchanging part of ourselves. Other times we get completely caught up in our external world and we forget that we're always connected in this way to this incredible source. So I'll leave you in silence for another minute while you experience this breath and the pauses between the breaths. These small moments of respite. Good. Go through one more cycle of breath. And then relax your breath completely when you're ready. There's no rush. And we'll sit a few moments in silence, connecting in to the heart center and seeing for yourself, sort of getting a bird's eye view of the past however many months since COVID, since so many changes have happened. And if you can see yourself and all the changes that you've been through, can you bring some compassion to that? Often we're hard on ourselves as we're trying to adapt and grow into this change. Can you come in with that non judgmental, kind, compassionate attitude towards yourself? One term I love is Maitri, unconditional friendliness towards the self. And now feel yourself where you are, still in the process of change. It's natural. And set an intention, something that could help you or serve you in moving forward as you continue through this time of change. So, are you here to cultivate patience if you're continuing with the practice? Or even if you're going to end the practice here, what do you want to bring with you through your day? Is it unconditional love, radical self acceptance? Maybe it's faith in the future. You'll know it's the right intention when instantly you either feel a sigh of relief or maybe a little bubbling up of excitement or of hope, something that feels expansive for you. And let's end our centering with another deep breath. Exhale completely. Inhale deeply. And exhale. Then I invite you to take your blanket and we're going to be starting in child's pose. So for your child's pose, you can start with your toes together and take the knees about the width of your yoga mat and sit back onto the heels. I recommend a blanket if you have sensitive knees. And also we want the forehead to be on a surface, whether it's on the ground or on a block. So if you do have a block or a cushion and it's more comfortable, then you can use it to rest. The idea behind this is that we want the neck muscles that are so overworked and overused to relax. To check in with your breath and to take a little step back again and see yourself with a lot of compassion and unconditional friendliness, Maitri. Know that by coming into this restful practice, you're helping yourself to become more resilient to stress, more adaptable to change. The two are correlated. And it's not the change itself that's stressful, it's our resistance to stress. It's also when the change happens all at once, it can be very overwhelming. And so it's crucial to have these moments, even if it's just a few minutes in child's pose or a few mindful deep breaths, to connect back in to yourself and have that chance to rest. So welcome. Welcome to your mat. Thank yourself for being here. And while you're in your child's pose, you want to bring attention to your breath and make sure that your breath has a place to move. And so we can practice that being in that wonderful place just outside our comfort zone where growth happens without it being stressful. Um, and we can practice it here in each pose in this practice. So you'll know that you've gone too far in a pose if your breath is impeded in any way. For the last minute in your child's pose, see if you can really feel the movement of the breath, sort of rise and fall of the breath. Maybe you feel it in your spine or in your hips. Relax your jaw. Good. You might even notice change over time within the pose, that the edge shifts to allow you to either go deeper in the pose or maybe you need to move out a little bit if it becomes too intense. We're going to take one more breath here. And then join me in lifting up slowly to all fours. You can bring your knees back in, and maybe it'll feel good here to stretch one leg back at a time. So you're stretching the backs of your knees after the compression that we just were in. Good. And you can also come into downward dog if that's a good option for you. When you're ready, we're going to be doing a nice little circular motion of taking the right foot around, and the heel will be on your mat. The toes can be slightly off your mat here. And you can slide your back knee back a little bit. We're coming into a lunge. This might not be your favorite pose. Maybe that's why I chose it. So if you do have blocks or a block, you can come up a little higher. It's going to depend what feels comfortable for you. That's good. Yeah. We'll start staying up tall. You can scissor the hips a little bit and then melt down through the hips on the exhale. Use your inhale to extend up through the chest. And you can either stay up here, or if it feels good to take the hands down, maybe coming down to your elbows, you can. Just don't compromise the stretch. Again, if you find that you start clenching your jaw, please stay in the pose, even if I come out, or tensing in some way. It's better to back out and take a less intense option so that, again, you can smile, you can breathe, and you know that you're not going too far outside of your comfort zone. So I chose this pose for our theme of adapting to change because it's easy to feel for a lot of people. It's a pretty intense stretch, right? However, the intensity is not permanent. And this is what I want you to observe, is that if you come in a moment of intensity in the stretch, either you back out or you accept it totally and see if you can actually lean into the discomfort a little bit. So again, only if you can breathe and smile, you're leaning in by meeting the resistance. And instead of contracting in the face of resistance, you're actually leaning into it and seeing what's on the other side. And usually on the other side of resistance, there's a beautiful release that's waiting to happen. The breath is always the most important part of the practice here. So make sure that you can finish your exhales. We're here for another few breaths. Good. And with a little smile, take yourself back. So just lean back with the hips first and then take the leg back. And if it feels good, you can come to a child's pose or just come up into Seiza pose or rock pose. Roll the shoulders back a few times. Check in from one side to the other. They might feel different. Again, it's quite empowering to see, if you do notice a difference, how quickly you can affect change in a positive way for yourself. So we're going to go over to the other side when you're ready. Swing the left leg around so that the heel is on your mat and the foot is slightly turned out. We want the knee to be tracking over the second big toe, approximately. I get the question a lot of, is it okay for the knee to come past the ankle? Well, yes, it is, and it really depends also on the intention of the stretch. But you want to do it if you can have your hands on the blocks or on the ground or your forearms, something to help distribute the weight so that it doesn't go into that front leg too much. So again, here, use your exhales to soften into the hips. And by the way, your body has its own time, it has its own rhythm. So there's never anything forceful about this practice. What you'll notice is that the change happens in a way more easily when we're not forcing, when we're actually just going with the flow. That's all part of that adaptability. So check in with your jaw, relax the face. And again, be aware with mindfulness, that witnessing quality of the changes that are happening even within a few minutes of a stretch. Melt the back of the heart and maybe go a little deeper for the last minute on this side. There's a pulse to each stretch. It's not a linear process. Just like change as well, don't worry if you get a setback, if you're on a growth pattern and you fall into an old pattern or get set back with illness or whatnot, you're still moving forward overall. And let those stretches remind you when you need to take a break from the stretch and then you come back in, sometimes you find that you can actually go back in deeper. You're not starting at the same place that you were. And that's important for life as well, that if you have a setback, you're not starting at the same place that you were before. You're still growing. So let's slowly take the back hip back, the right hip back, and take your left leg back. Again, with a smile, we want to do this mindfully. Relax through the thighs. Hopefully it feels good. That's the nice thing about yin. It's usually when you're out of the stretch that you get that that release of the happy chemicals. So next we're going to be coming into Pigeon Pose. One of the beauties of having this class recorded, pre-recorded, and being at home, is that if you want to spend longer in a pose, or you want to take your time between postures and, like, you know, meditate or just take a break, you can do that. You can hit pause at any time and make this more at your own pace. So for the sake of this video, we're going to go into the next pose. So if you are joining me, come to all fours and slide your right knee to your right wrist, and then slide your foot over towards your left hip. So we're coming into pigeon. Those that know it, in Yin, we call it Swan Pose. You can slide your kneecap back, so the top of the knee might be on a blanket at this point, to protect the knee. And this might feel really great, or it might be too intense, and you might find that a block under the hip serves you. Or you might be like, no, my knees really just don't like this pose, in which case I'll give you an alternative. So you either stay in pigeon where you are, or if the alternative pose would be to take the hands behind you, the soles of the feet on the ground, and to cross the right ankle over the left knee. Then maybe walk yourself a little closer in for a seated pigeon. And if this still isn't comfortable, too much pressure on the wrist perhaps, then come down to the ground into a figure four, or a thread the needle. The figure four can also be done with a strap around the left leg if that feels more comfortable to you. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter which pose you choose. You're finding the path of least resistance to creating that shift in your body. And, you know, I could tell you what to feel in the pose, but that would take away from the mindfulness aspect of you figuring out what you feel in the pose without me telling you what to feel. So that's one of the reasons I find this practice so empowering, is because you learn to really trust your body and to know the signals that your body gives you when it starts to get too far out of your comfort zone into a place of stress. So again, just outside the comfort zone is all we need to get all the benefits of our stretch. The comfort zone is where you don't feel a stretch. Simple as that. So as soon as you start to feel stretch, you can meet yourself there. Notice where there's resistance and see if you can meet that resistance, melt into it, and move a little deeper. And if the resistance gets too intense, then you back out a little bit and stay in that nice Goldilocks place where it's not too little and it's not too much. Take one more breath on this side. Slowly come up onto your hands if you're in pigeon pose. If you're in thread the needle on the back, you can take a little break with the soles of the feet on the ground, just resting on your back. Here, for your safety, it's really important when you come out of the pose that you smile. So come into a smile. That's well, make sure you're coming out mindfully. You can come to a child's pose, all fours, or maybe into a downward dog this time. The downward dog is nice because you get to press into your heels and maybe stretch the calf muscles as well. So this is an option for you. Or you can get, again, that similar stretch by just pressing one heel back at a time. Good. So again, you can take longer if you'd like. We're going to be moving to the other side. So you can do it from downward dog or come down to all fours first. Slide your left knee to your left wrist. Turn your left heel out to the side. Slide your right knee back. Square into the hips. by sliding the left hip back, right hip forward, and then relax even more. So again, here, if you have your props and you want to rest your forehead on something, either the ground, your hands, or a block, go for it. Maybe you're taking the block under the left hip for a bit of support. And you can also go into the second option if it feels better for your knees by taking the hands behind you, tall spine, and crossing the left ankle over the right knee. Doing it from a seated position or lying down on the back. The nice thing about Yin is that you have time. You have time to figure out what works for you and to adapt. So where change is stressful is when we feel like we don't have time to adapt. So again, these practices of the Yin Yoga, the mindfulness, the breathing, all of it packaged together so beautifully helps us to take that step back that we need to be able to process our thoughts, our emotions, our physical tensions, so that we can get that little perspective we need to move forward in a way that's non-reactive, a way that's intentional. Think about what the qualities are that would help you to adapt to change, whether that's patience, acceptance, faith, permission to rest. Take a few more deep breaths on the side of your pigeon. On your next inhale, slowly rise up. Again, for your safety, smile as you come out of the pose and either come to a child's pose, to all fours, or into a downward dog. And take all the time that you need here. I'm going to move ahead so that you can see what's going to happen next. We're going to come down onto the belly, and if you still have your blanket, you can use it as a little bit of extra cushioning under the hips. The toes will face each other, so there's a bit of an inner spiral in the thighs. And you're either taking your forehead to your hands, or perhaps taking the left ear to the ground with the arms by the sides. So sometimes we're so busy waking up every day and having to get things done just to get through to the other side. And we lose touch with how it might be affecting us physically, emotionally. So these pauses in between the poses are symbolic of that. That even with 3 postures so far, the child's pose, your dragon pose, and your swan, that already so much change has happened. You might be able to feel it in your hips, your lower back, your legs. From here, we're going to come up into a Sphinx. The elbows are in line with the shoulders. I always like to come into a few neck stretches when I'm in this one too. I'm still breastfeeding my baby, who's 9 months, and she's getting really heavy now. So any chance I get to stretch my neck is a very welcome opportunity. So if that feels good for you too, then you can do that. Another thing that I will propose while you're in your Sphinx is that you can take your right knee out to the side but keep your whole leg on the ground. So you're coming into a right angle. And what this does, this is a half frog pose. First of all, if it then gets too much for your lower back, you can choose to come down or maybe bring your forehead onto a block. If it feels fine like this, stay like this. And what it does is it helps to create a bit of space to breathe into the lower belly and the psoas. So I don't know for you, but sometimes if I can't fall asleep at night, it's because I feel like I'm really up here in my head. And this posture helps to bring the breath and the energy down, the aponic energy, to help us get grounded and slow down. Good, and switch sides. So take your right leg back, take the left knee out to the side, if this is the option that you've chosen. And as you breathe, see if you can breathe a bit deeper down into the space that you're creating in the lower belly and the hip. You know you're doing it right if it feels good, if you can still breathe and smile. So you'll know you're outside of your comfort zone because you'll feel a stretch, you'll feel some sort of change in your body. And you know that you're not too far outside of your comfort zone. Again, if you can stay relaxed in the pose without having to clench muscles or impede the breath. So this is a good place to be in life wherever we can. And when we can't, because sometimes we can't. Sometimes life requires us to move through a really big, intense moment of stress. Then knowing that we can have these practices of repair to come to is very, very helpful. So we're going to take that left leg back now and just take maybe 2 or 3 more breaths just in your Sphinx. And then exhale, release the head back down. And if it feels good, you can sort of rock your legs from side to side, windshield wash the legs. Then push into the hands, come up to all fours. Here, if you want to come into some gentle movement for the spine, maybe a few cat cows, go ahead. Again, moving mindfully, which means on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Give yourself the time you need. Eventually, we're going to be sitting back in between the heels. If it's comfortable, you can take a block or 2 blocks so that perhaps you feel a bit of stretch either in your shins, your ankles, or maybe the thighs. I'm going to be here for a little bit. If it's not comfortable to sit between the heels, you can also choose to sit on the heels with the knees apart and maybe take a cushion in between the hips and the heels. This is another great option. Saddle pose instead of hero pose. Good. And take stock of how you feel, whether you notice any change from the start of the class to now. I remember my teacher, Nishala Devi, had said in a workshop that I took with her that everything affects us. So for sure, the things that are going on in the world is so crazy right now, it's affecting us. You know what? You being here, doing this right now, that affects you too. So it's a great way to counterbalance some of the stresses that are happening on the inside to go in and focus inward. It was Viktor Frankl, who's a Holocaust survivor, who I think he wrote, his quote was, "When you can no longer change a situation, we are called to change ourselves." So this is the amazing internal work that allows us to keep going. All right, coming into the last part of the practice now. Please join me in a comfortable lying down position, whatever that means for you. If you're on your couch or in your bed, you might fall asleep. That's okay. Otherwise, maybe on a yoga mat, and get whatever you need to feel really comfortable. If you do have blocks or a bolster, you could put them under your thighs for a little bit of extra support on the lower back. I have the blanket under my hips, but you could have the blanket folded under your neck, your head. And you can also have your blanket over you as a way to stay, as a way to stay cozy and warm. So yeah, if there's a lot of sensitivity in the lower back, you're also welcome to do this just with your knees bent. This is another thing you can do. We want the shoulders to be slightly apart, the shoulder blades relaxed on the back, palms facing up. This will help to just create a bit of openness in the chest. The feet slightly apart as well. Just let the weight of the body register. See if you can feel the contact points between yourself and the ground. Take a deep breath in. Hold the breath a moment. Feel any residual tensions right now come up to the surface and let it go with a big sigh. Again, inhale deeply. Hold the breath a moment. And exhale a sigh. Toggle the jaw a little bit. Make sure that your jaw is relaxed. Swallow to relax the throat. And then bring awareness to the top of the head. The top of the head. Feel the top of the head relax and the back of the head getting heavier in the ground, as though the ground were rising up under your head to support the entire weight of the head and of the brain. The brain relaxed. Imagine your thoughts, the heaviest thoughts, slipping out through the back of the head and dissolving into the earth, creating space in the mind. Space in the mind, like a garden that you just weeded and tilled, ripe and ready to receive new seeds. Patience, loving kindness, seeds of faith. And then continue your way down to the eyes and relax the eyes. Feel the eyes sinking deeper into the head. Feel the forehead soften, the cheeks relax. Relax the lips, letting them part slightly. Relax the jaw one more time. And feel yourself moving from external hearing to internal hearing, internal sight. Like a turtle coming into its shell, pratyahara, turn the senses inward and move your way down again to the neck. Relax the neck. Soften the shoulders. And bring the awareness to the right arm and relax the right shoulder down to the bicep and tricep, into the elbow, the forearm, the wrist, hand, fingers, and fingertips. Relax from the shoulder to the fingertips and the fingertips to the shoulder. The right arm relaxed. Bring the awareness to the left shoulder now. Relax the left shoulder down to the bicep and tricep, into the elbow and around the forearm, into the wrist. Relaxation moving down through the hand to the fingers and the fingertips. Relax from the shoulder to the fingertips and the fingertips to the shoulder. Relax. Bring the awareness now to the chest and feel the chest relax. The heart and the lungs relax. The entire chest, the heart, and the lungs relax. And feel the breath moving freely in the lungs. Bring the awareness down to the abdomen and relax the abdominal muscles and all the internal organs beneath, as if you were creating a little pool, of stillness in the belly. The organs relax. The entire torso is relaxed, the front of the body melting into the back of the body. Relax. And bring your awareness to the back now. The back of the neck, the back of the shoulders and the shoulder blades, and the space between the shoulder blades. The back of the heart is relaxed and melting into the floor. You can almost imagine pancake batter coming into a pan and spreading. That's how it feels. You're spreading the light of the heart through the upper back. And then relax the mid-back, including the kidneys and the adrenals that sit on top of the kidneys. With this gentle, relaxed breath, effortless breath, the kidneys and the adrenaline cool and relax. Relax the lower back. The lower back is relaxed, all the way down to the sacrum and even the tip of the tailbone. The entire back is relaxed and the spine is relaxed. Feel that you are snaking through from the cervical, through the thoracic, to the lumbar spine, and back down again to the sacrum and the tailbone. So from the top all the way to the bottom of the spine. Relax the spine and the space in between each vertebra. Relax. Relax the hips. The entire pelvic area is relaxed. Relax the pelvis and then bring your awareness to your right leg and relax the femur bone in the hip socket. Relax the right thigh down to the knee, into the shin and the calf, down to the ankle, to the foot, the sole of the foot, the top of the foot, to the toes and the tips of the toes. The entire right leg is relaxed, from the hip to the toes and the toes to the hip. Relax. Bring the awareness to the left leg now, from the hip. The femur bone relaxed in the hip socket. Relax the thigh bone, the thigh muscles, down to the knee to the shin and the calf, and make your way down to the ankle. Feel the weight of your heel on the ground, and then relax the foot, the top of the foot, the sole of the foot, down to the toes and the tips of the toes. The entire left leg is relaxed from the toes to the hip and the hip to the toes. Relax. The entire body is relaxed from the head to the toes. from the head to the toes, from the head to the toes. The physical body is relaxed. The breath is relaxed. The mind is relaxed. And you are now resting deep inside, feeling the undercurrent of Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, bliss. Rest here in this unchanging place. It is only when we are relaxed that the body has a chance to repair. The body is repairing itself. And the little seeds that you planted of patience, of loving kindness, of faith are growing in the same way that when we present all the right circumstances, the little plants grow by themselves. There's no force to it, it's completely natural. So the ground of relaxation allows for these little sprouts to be cultivated effortlessly. Effortlessly cultivating love, kindness, compassion, patience, faith. Take a deeper breath here. Exhale completely. Slowly start to wiggle the tips of the fingers and the toes. Rotate the wrists and the ankles. Deepen the breath. And take the arms overhead, the toes away into a nice big stretch. Bring the soles of the feet to the ground and rock over to one side. Pause here in fetal pose with your bottom arm as a cushion for the head. And once again, take stock of how things have changed, how you are an agent of change for the positive, for the best. That every effort that you make counts and matters. And even if that change or that effort is to be easy, to go easy on yourself when you don't have time to do these practices, there's always time to step back and observe yourself with loving kindness, to take a deep breath, to smile. So let's take an breath here. And press up slowly to seated position. And give yourself a really big smile of appreciation for having taken this time for yourself. So, so important. I'm giving you and sending you so, so much love wherever you are in the world, whatever time of day it is. I hope that this has brought you a little bit of solace, of love and comfort, and that you feel a little better than you did when you first started. So again, if you have any comments, anything that you want to share, any practices that you would like to see, please message me. I would love, love, love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day. And for my students in Montreal, may there be peace in your heart, peace in your home, and peace in the world. Namaste.